I shared my updated profile, so I just want to mention a few things here because that profile where what I shared, it's almost 1.5 years. I have published more than 150 papers, and my citations gone around 3,000 now with H index of 32. It's a slight update, so I just today morning I shared with you. That's good. So let me share the screen now. Just confirm me if it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. So yeah, I hope this is visible now, right?
Yes, sir. PPT is visible, sir.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. So, very good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank the IoT Academy for giving this opportunity. It's almost around 2 years I associated with IoT Academy, and I have delivered more lectures with IoT Academy. So, for that, first I would like to thank the concerned team. And today, I would like to discuss the title. It's effective article writing for Scopus and Web of Science publications. And yeah, I think I just made a mistake. It's organized by OT Academy. So because recently I have done for my own department faculty members, so that's why I just mentioned the organization wrong. Just pardon me. It's organized by the IoT Academy. And in today's discussion, so I have a few plans to discuss. These are the things I'll be discussing in today's session. So it's purely on the research awareness and research ethics, because it's the right time to discuss the research ethics. So because of so many AI tools, the people forget about the ethics, and the people are doing so many the malpractices or unethical activities. So I just want to tell you what is that research ethics we should follow, and research guidelines. So, what are the things to be kept in the mind when you write any kind of a papers? So, if time permits, I'll be talking about the research metrics and even the research tools. So, I'll just give some glimpses of the research tools. Okay, so research metric itself requires more than 2 hours to discuss. So, possibly, I'll cover the research tools. Okay, so this is what my plan today. So first, let me move on to the research awareness. So first thing in anyone's mind, the very first question is why we have to do publications. That's what in all the young researchers' mind, even some senior professors also, they are questioning why we have to do publications. So that's the reason. So I just listed few important points here. Okay, so not only these points, okay, so apart from the so many objectives are there, but here I just listed only a few important objectives of why we are going for the publication. So publication, it may be a journal, or it may be a conference, it may be a book chapter, it may be a book, whatever it may be. Okay, why we are doing all these things? Okay, the first thing, it's a dissemination of the knowledge. Yes, it's correct. So because when we do something, when we do some kind of a research, okay, and it's our duty, or it's our responsibility, okay, to disseminate what we are doing it. Okay, so for that, the publication is one of the media to disseminate our knowledge. Yes, and the next one is the validation and peer review. So when we do research, so we might be thinking that yes, what we do is correct and what we get is perfect. Okay, so in that way only the maximum majority of the people will think. Okay, but whatever we do, whatever the research we do, it has to be validated and it has to be peer reviewed by the experts. Okay, so because when you write any papers on your particular research, okay, when you're submitting to any journal or the conferences or the book chapters, whatever it may be, okay, so it will be going for the peer review. Yes, so the peer reviewers are nothing but some subject experts will be there, and there is a possibility of getting some kind of a comments. It may be a positive or it may be a negative comments, whatever it may be. We'll be getting some kind of the opinion about our project or the papers what we write. Okay, so then obviously that will be very helpful to understand where is our research is. Okay, so that's the thing we need to do for publications. And the advancement of sciences. Yes, so publications, as you know, it's all the fundamental means of advancing scientific progresses. So this process drives the further research and facilitates scientific breakthroughs. So because when we do something, okay, maybe knowingly or knowingly, we have created some breakthroughs. Okay, so if that is there, if we are not disseminating, if we are not bringing it to the outside world, then it's a waste of doing such kind of a research, right? So we have to disseminate, whether it is a small research contribution or the a bigger research contribution. So we should disseminate. Okay, so again, most of the thing, nowadays the people are doing publications only for the academic recognition and the career advancement, so that everyone knows, because because nowadays the people are thinking in their mind that, okay, I'm doing publication only to get academic recognition and the career advancement. So apart from that, we have so many else is there. So with regard to the career advancement, yes, as you know, in most of the institutions now, they connected the appraisals or the increments, whatever it is. Okay, it is connected with their publications. Okay, because we have a lot of ranking system. So if you want to compete with other institutions, we should do some kind of a meaningful research. So that's the reason, and most of the institutions are giving some kind of direct or indirect pressures to do some research. Okay, so for that also, yes, we have to do, and we have to prove ourselves that we can also do a research, right? So for that, yes, we need it. And if you want to be recognized in the research community or the academic community, yes, obviously we have to go for the publication. And nowadays, the policy makers, okay, or the practitioners, whoever it is, okay, the people started referring the publications. Okay, so when they are writing any kind of a policies or the procedures, okay, they are start referring to the scientific publications which are published in reputed publishers or reputed journals, and they are taking it as an evidence. Okay, and they are making some kind of a decisions. Okay, so if we don't do even if we do some quality research, okay, if we are not doing any if you are not doing any publications, okay, so obviously it will be a loss for the policy makers or the professionals who are making or the policies or the standards or who whatever it may be. Okay, so for that also, yes, we have to do the publications and the collaboration networking. So publication brings a lot of collaborations and networking. So once we get the networking, yes, we can broaden or we can extend our research, and we can also collaborate with the people who are outside India or who are outside state or outside India. Okay, so these are all the possibilities when you go for the good publications. And finally, we say it's a preservation of the knowledge. Okay, so whatever we do, everything is preserved. It's a permanent record, because, as you know, for most of the publications we have the DOI numbers. It's all the permanent numbers. So it's a unique number for each and every article. Okay, it's all preserved for the future generations. So when the future generations are there, if they want to refer to it, yes, obviously we need to have some kind of a quality publication. So these are the very few the objectives of publications, why we are going for it. Okay, apart from that, as I told, we have so many objectives. Okay, I just listed only the primary objectives. Okay, and there's a statement in most of the universities. Okay, the people will do the publish or perish. Okay, that's the statement. The people, it's not that only now we are using the statement. Okay, so it's almost for last 60 70 years the people are, even most of the universities are pressurizing the academicians and researchers to do the publications. Okay, so nowadays it's because of so many ranking systems there. So we have a NARF ranking, and we have the QS ranking. The worldwide ranking is also there. Since our focus is on more on ranking, then the people expect some quality research. Okay, so this kind of pressure is almost for more than 70 years it is there. Okay, so that's what I'm telling you is, if you are good at technically, if you are good, then obviously publishing paper is not a matter. Okay, so that's what I'm telling you. You just try to publish and succeed. So obviously it will be very helpful for you to succeed in your career. Okay, and what is a research paper? Okay, so as you know, when you go for the publication of any journal or the conferences, okay, so we have different thoughts that, yes, can we go for a research paper, or we can go for a review paper, or a short communication papers. Like, there's so many thought process will be there. So what is the research paper? That I just want to define. So research paper, it's a comprehensive document. Okay, so research paper, it's a comprehensive document, and it is the evidence based paper. Okay, whatever the research paper we write, okay, it's all evidence based papers, because we need to have some kind of experimentation. Okay, and through the experimentation we have to prove ourselves that whatever you propose or we propose, okay, it is validated, or it is performing better than the classical systems or the traditional system what we have. Okay, so as I said, it's a lengthy paper. Okay, so whatever the findings and whatever the analysis, whatever the interpretation is there, everything should be included in the research paper. Okay, in place, if you see the review paper is nothing but it's a kind of a review of some other papers, and we'll be giving you some kind of the conclusions that, okay, so these are the challenges, drawbacks, and advantages. Okay, and the future, the scopes, everything will be providing in the review paper. But research paper, it's all with the evidences. We can talk only with evidence. Okay, so if that evidence is not there, obviously that paper cannot be considered as a research paper. Okay, so now how long? Okay, I'm writing a research paper. Maybe it may be related to my MTech or my PG or maybe my PhD work, whatever it may be. Okay, when you write any kind of research paper, okay, what should be the length of the paper? Okay, and what should be the word length? What should be what are the things and what are the subsections of the research paper? Okay, so those are the things I thought of discussing with you. Okay, so here the research paper, as you know, first you decide what paper you're writing. Okay, whether it's a research paper or the review paper. Okay, and we have so many types. Okay, as I said, short communication letters, editorial, even we have the perception papers. Okay, so we have so many different varieties of publications. Okay, but here what I focus is mostly on the journal paper or the research paper. Okay, so many journals specifies the word count, because nowadays few journals are putting some kind of constraints that, yeah, the number of words in the paper should be only this much. Okay, so here I have provided the range. It can be from 2,000 to 12,000 words. Okay, and this 12,000 words, it's all, it's all for some kind of a review papers. Okay, so sometimes, if suppose if you are writing any papers on the statistical analysis, okay, sometimes the number of words may be more than this 12,000 words as well. Okay, yeah. Now, typically research papers, as I told, it will be around 4,000 to 8,000 words. Okay, but if it is a short papers or short communications or the lectures, it will be within 2,000 words. If it is a long papers, or if I say it's a review paper, okay, it may be around 12,000, or sometimes it will be more than 12,000 words as well. Okay, so here when we focus on the number of words, the thing is we should not lose the quality and the clarity of the content. Okay, so that we have to keep it in mind whenever you write any paper. Yes, obviously you should keep the word length in the mind, but at the same time you should not compromise with your quality and the clarity of the content what you are going to present it through your paper. Okay, so you try to write the paper concisely. Okay, and with a good the language, because when you're going for the publication, the language is also very important. Okay, so though we are not the native English speaking country, yes, obviously we can also do something, and we have some kind of AI tools to guide you to write some good to improve the language quality of the paper. It's not that the AI tools can be useful to write the paper, but the AI tools can be useful to improve the language quality of the paper. Okay, so in such sense, using the AI tools is not the unethical, but if you are using the AI tools to write a complete paper or whatever you do, okay, whatever you write, if it is generated only by the AI tools, then obviously that will be considered as the unethical, the ethical. Sorry, it's all unethical. We should not do that. Okay, and if you are using it only for the language corrections, yes, it's accepted. It's ethical one. Okay. And what should be the structure of the paper? So first, always you'll be writing the title. So the title should be a concise title. Okay. The most of the time, the number of words in the title should not be more than 10 to 15 words. Sometimes, most of the time, no, you try to restrict the title with the number of words 10. Okay. If it is not possible, maybe one or two times you can go up to 15 words. Okay. Don't go with lengthier title always. Okay, and it should be a specific title. Okay, don't give any kind of a generic statement or generic word in the title. You give a specific title so that your paper tries to attract many researchers, so that you'll be getting more citations for your paper as well. And the next one is abstract. As you know, the abstract is a brief summary of any kind of a paper. It may be a research, it may be review, it may be a conference, whatever it may be. The abstract is a brief summary of your complete work, and it should be within 150 to 250 words. Okay, so it's better to restrict within 200 words, because now most of the journals having these restrictions. If your abstract is more than 200 words, you cannot submit the paper. Okay, so I restrict the number of words to 200. That's fine always. Okay, it's a optimal word length. And the introduction and the literature review. As you know, in most of the Western country papers, if you look at the people will be having only one chapter as the introduction. In the introduction itself, they'll be talking about the literature. So they'll not keep any separate section in the paper for the literature review. In the introduction itself, most of the thing will be discussed. Most of the literature review will be covered in the introduction section itself. Okay, but mostly in the Indian papers, in the Indian authored papers, you could see the separate sections will be there. For one is for the introduction, another one is for the literature review. Okay, but what I suggest to you is, you please try to go with only one section. So you just try to club the introduction, the literature review. Okay, so introduction, as you know, one or two paragraph about one or two paragraph about the introduction to the particular research, and maybe the next is your literature review. Then what is the findings from the literature review, so that we call it as a research gap. Okay, and the next one is the problem statements, and also the major contributions of the paper, or the novelty of the paper to be disclosed in the introduction section itself, and the organization of the paper. So everything will be covered only in the introduction section. Okay, that way you try to plan. Okay, and methodology, so this will be the heart of your paper. Okay, so here only you have to disclose all your novelty. Okay, so maybe through the flow chart, block diagram, or any kind of mathematical evidences. Okay, so all the things should be disclosed in the methodology. Okay, because this is where the your paper is unique compared to other papers. Okay, so you have to give more focus on the methodology section and the research section. Okay, so here we have to provide a lot of research findings. Okay, maybe so research, maybe it may be simulation based results or the hardware based results, and depends upon the field. Okay, it's not that for every field the experimentation is possible. Okay, few engineering fields experimentation is possible, but maybe some science and humanities. So obviously, I know the experimentation is very limited experimentations you can do. So that depends upon the field. You can see what way you can express your findings of the study. So that's where you have to discuss everything in the result section. And the result section, what you have to do is you have to keep a lot of figures and tables. Okay, and we have some certain restrictions that, suppose if you are trying to convey something through the table and that should not be reflected as a figure, if you have something communicating through the figure and that should not be reflected as a table. So you should avoid unnecessary tables and figures, but you should do a lot of critical analysis. Just putting the table or the figure will not help you. Okay, you have to analyze the results, why we are getting good results, why we are getting a bad results. Okay, why we are getting the competitive results. So these kind of analysis you have to do, and you have to discuss everything in the results section. And the next one is a discussion. And this is where the most of the people will not keep a separate section or a separate subsection for the discussion. But discussion section is always very important, okay, because this interprets and analyzes the results in the light of research questions and the objectives. Okay, this is where the place to discuss all your advantages, drawbacks, or challenges. Okay, and even if it is a future extension, whatever it is, so that can be discussed in the discussion section. Okay, and the conclusion. So mostly uh, this is a summary of your key findings and the implications, and it should restate the research questions and the objectives what we have discussed in the introduction section. Okay, and should be a concise summary. Possibly try to have some kind of quantity based quantity. You just quantify your results in the conclusion section. Sometimes the reviewers will be asking you to quantify the results only in the abstract section itself. Okay, so but in the conclusion section also you have to, because when you do any kind of a research, we'll be comparing with some existing one. Okay, when you do that kind of comparison, then we can say that yes, this much of percentage improvement has happened compared to my traditional system. That kind of quantification is always required when you write any kind of a conclusion. And also the future extensions or whatever the future scopes are there with regard to your study, so that need to be disclosed in the conclusion section itself. Okay, then you have to put the proper references. Okay, and the proper references in the sense it should be, whatever the references you are citing, that should be relevant to your research. So don't cite or don't refer to any of the papers which is not relevant to you, and also try to refer some new papers. Referring to the old papers, sometimes it will be useful for you to understand the concepts. Okay, but when you submit the papers to the journals, then this kind of questions will be coming like the authors have referred only the old papers. Okay, these kind of comments will come from the reviewers. So in order to avoid that comment, you please try to refer some new published paper, new relevant published papers. And you can take some papers, or if you want to acknowledge any of the old papers, there you can keep it as uncited references. You can list out so many uncited references in the paper. Okay, and appendices, suppose if you feel anything, something is not important throughout the text. Okay, because some tables or some mathematical expressions or some mathematical derivations, if you feel that is not required in the flow of the paper, so those things can be kept in the appendixes section. Okay, so you just plan, suppose if something is unwanted in the main text, that you can exclude and that you can include it in the appendix section. Okay, then finally the acknowledgements, if any acknowledgements or any conflicts are there, or if the author contribution, everything should be there in the structure of the paper. Okay, so now I just give you the complete summary of it. Okay, so here the title, as I said, maximum 10 words, and abstract, you just limit to 200 words and should not be less than 150 words also. That will also not having any meaning of abstract. And introduction literature review, as I told you, just club it and conduct a thorough literature. And methods, be specific. Don't discuss any known facts in the method section. You discuss only the unknown facts in the method section. And the results, you should do the comprehensive analysis. Okay, and in the discussion section, you should talk about the findings, the limitations, and the challenges. Okay, and the conclusion future section, it should be a concise summary. As I said, the future extension will be included in the conclusion section itself. And acknowledgement, so here you have to acknowledge the funding agencies, or if you have any person to acknowledge or any university to acknowledge, everything to be disclosed in the acknowledgement section. Apart from that, the declarations are there. Declarations, it may be on conflicts, it's a financial conflict or personal conflict, or it may be author contribution. Okay, or if any kind of ethics. Okay, so all these things to be discussed after the conclusion section. Then after all these declarations and acknowledgements, then we have to go for the references section. And here again, one important thing is you should have the proper references. I told you in the previous slide, but what should be the number of references? That is also my experience. I just listed the number of references here. Okay, if you write any research paper, you try to go with minimum of 25 recent and 11 papers. If you're writing any review papers, at least you should refer to 100 recent and relevant papers. Okay, and the tables and figures, as I told, avoid unnecessary tables and figures. Okay, so don't discuss the same information through the figure and the table. Okay, you can use either table or the figure to explain your concepts. Okay, apart from that, the cover letter is very important nowadays, because now the cover letter is it's a kind of a summary for your paper submission. Because most of the time the editor-in-chief will refer to only the cover letter. So there in the cover letter, you should disclose your novelty of the paper, and you should disclose the scope of your paper, everything to be disclosed there. So then only we can avoid the desk rejection, or else the people will read the paper. They will have, most of the time the people they don't have time to read the paper. Okay, so they'll be referring to only the cover letter. If the people feel that yes, the paper is not having any kind of mm, novelty, simply they will reject the paper. That we call it as the desk rejection. So in order to avoid the desk rejection, so I personally ask you to write a good cover letter, so that you can avoid all these desk rejections. And tips on writing your manuscript. So, as I said, you should write the methodology first. Okay. Then after that, you try to write your results. Okay. Then after that, you go for the introduction section. Okay. Then after the results, then you can go for the discussion section. So when you write, always clearly and concisely, you have to write. Okay. Don't elaborate everything. Okay. Concisely, you have to write, and clear write up is always required. Okay. There should not be any jumble sentence or the jumble paragraph. Okay, so there should be a flow throughout the paper. So be precise. Okay, and avoid long sentences. As I told, if your sentences is more than 2 3 lines, okay, so sometimes the reviewers will give comments. Okay, so not to avoid that one, please try to avoid writing papers with long sentences, and omit unnecessary words. Okay, because see, nowadays if you write a paper with AI tools, lot of unnecessary words will be there. So we feel the people feel that why these words are necessary to explain some concepts. Okay, so just once you write the paper, you take it and read the paper completely. Wherever any unnecessary words are there, you please try to remove it. Okay, so this will happen only if you read the paper after writing it. Okay, or else it will not. You cannot omit any unnecessary words. Okay, so these are a few tips when you write any of the manuscript. Okay, now I'll move on to a very important thing, that is a research ethics. Okay, so the research ethics provides a guidelines for the responsible conduct of research. Okay, but I don't know how many we people are following the research ethics, because the research ethics and the standards are formulated by multiple societies and agencies. Okay, this is only to conduct a proper research. Okay, so this ethics educates and the monitors scientists conducting research to ensure high ethical standards. That's the reason why most of the journals you can see that the ethics part they'll be discussing. Okay, so these, it's not that it is done by the publisher. Okay, we have some certain agencies and some kind of committees are available to formulate all these research ethics, so that I'll be telling you in the later slides. Okay, but when you write any papers, you try to follow the research ethics so that you can avoid you can avoid uh, removal of the paper once it is even after it's published. Okay, because nowadays in many of the journal the retractions are happening. It's because of violation of this research ethics. Okay, so that's the reason I thought of telling you people. So what are the things to be done? Okay, so when you write any paper, okay, first thing what we should do is we should avoid using control C and control V. Okay, so if you avoid this, obviously we can avoid plagiarism. Once you avoid plagiarism, yes, the first step of the publication is over. Okay, so try to avoid plagiarized content. Okay, don't use any kind of a plagiarized content. Okay, don't keep something, don't copy something from other paper to your paper. That's always unethical thing. We should not do that. Okay, and when you write any paper, nowadays a lot of open source platforms or open source repositories are available. The people are looking for openness about the research. Okay, so when you write something, and the codes, everything, the source codes, everything to be posted in the repositories. Okay, during the review process. Okay, so nowadays, the reviewers are validating your paper just by referring to your source codes. Okay, they not simply believe the write-up what they have given in the paper, and they look for some kind of openness. Okay, and also suppose if you do any kind of a research with the animals, okay, or some human subjects, so we need to take a proper approval, and we have to do that. Okay, and whatever we write, we should be honesty and integrity. That honesty and integrity is always required when you write any kind of a research paper. And also you should give a proper respect to the IPR, proper respect to the copyrights of the publishers or the authors. Okay, we should cite them, or we should acknowledge them properly. Okay, so these are all the things we have to follow when you write any kind of research papers. As I said, these research ethics are formulated by so many policy makers. Okay, so here I just listed few of policy makers. Okay, so if something is relevant to the medical, okay, so there you can see that we have ICMJE and World Health Organization is there. Okay, and National Institution of Health. Okay, so all these agencies or the policy makers are creating the policies or the research ethic policies. Okay, so we have to follow that. Suppose if you are working on the food and drugs, so maybe have FDA, and if you suppose if anyone is from the engineering community, so as we have a COPE policy, that is a committee on publication ethics. So likewise we have so many policy makers. So respective to your discipline, the policy makers will be different. Okay, so when you write any papers, just refer to these codes and policies so that we can avoid all the ethical related matters. Okay, so the first unethical activity I just want to discuss is authorship. Okay, so this is where now most of the things it's going on now. So one is misrepresenting a scientist relationship to their article. Okay, so what is the meaning is, uh, you know uh, we'll be adding some author's name in the paper. Okay, but if you look at that author's contribution to the paper, it will be very very little contribution. Sometimes there won't be any contributions at all. Okay, so simply for small contributions we'll be adding their name in the paper. And also sometimes one author will be working completely for the paper. Okay, but we'll not include them in the paper. So these are all unethical things. We should not do that. Okay, that's what the first one says: misrepresenting a scientist relationship to their work. The next one is the ghost authorship. Okay, the ghost authorship in the sense, see, most of the non-English speaking country people, they'll be taking the help of some kind of agencies to write their papers on behalf of them, on behalf of the authors. Okay, they'll be writing, but will not acknowledge them properly, will not actually, as per their discussion, no, we should include them. We should include them in the paper, or else we should acknowledge them in the paper. Okay, but that's not happening. Okay, so that is also considered as a ghost authorship. And now the gift and the guest authorship, this is where nowadays it's going on. Okay, it's a gift or guest. Okay, the gifted authorship in the sense, simply I'll add someone's name, some of my friend name, some of my XYZ name, so that will be adding in the paper. Or the guest authorship, okay, that is also to be avoided. Okay, so the gift and guest, okay, so maybe sometimes, they are not involved in any, even they don't know the title of the paper. Even if the people, they don't know in what area we people have worked. Okay, without knowing anything, without doing any contributions. Okay, if we add them in the paper, that we call it as a gift or guest authorship. So this is a completely unethical activity. Okay, and the next one is a competing interest. Okay, so suppose if you have any personal relationship with the people, or if you have any funding resources, if you are not disclosing them, if you have any personal relationship, if you are not disclosing them during the submission or during the publication process. Okay, so that is considered as the unethical activity. Okay, so we should not do that. If any kind of the personal relationship or the funding, okay, everything should be disclosed. If it is not disclosed, and that is considered as the unethical activity. The next one is a plagiarism. Okay, in the plagiarism also we have different versions. Okay, the one is a literal copy. Literal copying is nothing but simply from, we'll take one paper, we'll press Control C and we'll press Control C in our paper. Okay, so that we call it as the literal copy. Okay, and the next one is a substantial copy. Okay, substantial copying is nothing but, this is a part of the material, or even if suppose if any method is good, so that will be copying and pasting it. Okay, so that we call it as the substantial copying. Okay, the next one is a paraphrasing. The paraphrasing in the sense, will be taking the content from one paper, okay, without their permission or without the acknowledgement of the original source. What we will do is, we'll be paraphrasing it using some kind of AI tools, and we'll be using it. Okay, so that we call it as the paraphrases. That is also one of the plagiarism. Okay, and the next one is a text recycling. Okay, so what is the meaning is, author will be publishing one paper. Okay, so now what they will do is, they'll be paraphrasing it, the same paper, and they'll be resubmitting the paper to some other journal. Okay, and that they'll publish as a new paper. Okay, so this we call it as the text recycling. Okay, so these are all coming under the plagiarism. Okay, we should avoid plagiarism. Okay, so that is what I'm just trying to say here. And one more thing is, a simultaneous submission. Okay, this is also one of many of the people are doing nowadays. One is, I'll be writing a paper. I don't have patience to wait. So what we do, we'll be submitting paper to multiple journals simultaneously. So this is considered as a serious unethical activity. We should not do that. Okay. When you write a paper, submit to one journal and wait for some time. And if you get the decision, whether it is a positive or negative, then accordingly you take a decision and you go for the next journal. Okay. You should not do any kind of a simultaneous submission. Okay, the next one is a duplicate publication. What is a duplicate publication? Is when author submits a paper or the portion of this paper has been previously published to another journal without disclosing the prior submission. Okay, see, I'll be submitting one paper. Okay, so that paper, maybe the content of most of the content of the paper is already published in some other journal. Okay, so now what we do, without disclosing that information during the submission process of this paper, if we do it, that we call it as a duplicate publications. Okay, and the next one is the duplication by paraphrasing and recycling. Okay, so this is again what we do is, when a write paper when the paper when author is writing the paper, okay, they'll be publishing it. And what they will do is, they will write two or more articles from different angles. Okay, you see, the content or the method will be same, and the way of writing, they'll be writing in the different way and different aspects. Then finally what they do is, without acknowledging the original paper, they're submitting the paper to the journal for the publication. So that is called again unethical activity. And the next one is the translation of a paper published in another language. See, some countries, they allow publication only in their national language. Okay, for example, the Chinese people are publishing papers in Chinese language. Okay, so now what the people will do is, they will take that paper, okay, and they will translate the paper, and they'll be publishing as a new paper in English publishing journals. Okay, so this is again the unethical activity. We should not do that. And the next one is the research fraud. Okay, the research fraud, in the sense, it's a publication of a data, publishing a data or conclusion that were not generated by the experiments or the observations, but by inventions and the metadata manipulation. So what we do, we'll be writing a paper, we'll be giving some kind of false data, okay, or some kind of cooked up data or the manipulated data. Okay, if we do, that is also coming under the unethical activity. So first one is a manipulation of the data. Okay, intentionally we'll be modifying the data or changing the data, or sometimes we will omit the data, okay, in order to prove the method is strong or it's better. Okay, so we should not manipulate the data. So with respect to the data, now with respect to the images, so now the manipulation of the data can be found easily with some kind of AI tools, that the people are doing it now, right now. But now see, manipulation the images, so that is for a long time it's happening, manipulation of the images. So as of now, the people, they don't have tools, but so now we are in the era of AI. Yes, they can easily track the manipulation of the data in the images. Okay, that also they can do it. Okay, so you just don't do any kind of a data manipulation, otherwise it will lead to the retraction of the paper. Okay, and the next one is a salami slicing. Okay, so this is again one of the critical unethical activity. The salami slicing is nothing but, I'll be writing one paper. Okay, maybe for example, sometimes I'll be writing one paper, I'll be showing to my friend is suggesting, why you're writing this much big paper, you split the paper and publish like a three papers, like that. Sometimes your friends or maybe your colleagues or maybe your professors, they'll be giving some kind of idea, so that you should not do that. That is called salami slicing. Okay, slicing the original paper to the multiple papers, and we are publishing as a multiple papers. Okay, so that is again an ethical activity, so that we call it as the salami slicing. That also we should not do that. Okay, so there are 5 reasons to publish your paper ethically. One is to ensure the scientific progress. That's always fine, because that's what the one of the primary objective why we are going for the publication. Yes, and it protects life on the planet. Yes, that's fine, because if we don't do any research ethically, okay, what will happen? As I told you, most of the time the policy makers are referring to the papers to write the policies. Okay, when they refer to the unethical paper and they are writing any policy, that will lead to that will harm to the people on the planet, right? So obviously, in order to protect the life on the planet, is obviously we have to do some publications ethically. Okay, and it promotes ethical behavior. That's fine, because uh, uh, if you do, then obviously the people will say yes, he is ethical, the work is ethical. Okay, so obviously the publication promotes your ethical behavior, and it's good for your reputation. Okay, you don't need to think about others. Okay, if you do, if you publish paper ethically, then obviously it will give you the good reputation. Okay, and finally, there is no other way. This is the only way to do the publications. Okay, so these are the five main reasons why we have to publish paper ethically. Okay, and now I'm coming to the research guidelines. And I have written the paper. Okay, now what we have to do is I have to submit a paper to some journal. Okay, well, because in the first discussion we all discussed what is the research paper, what should be the range, and what are the things to be kept in the paper that we discussed. And when you write the paper, as I told you, what are the things to be followed, the research ethics we have done. Now by following everything, yes, I have written the paper. Now I want to submit the paper. Okay, so if I want to submit the paper, then to which journal I have to submit the paper. Okay, how to select the journal. So these are the guidelines to select the journal. Okay, one is what audience do you want to reach. So because when you write a paper, it is for the readers. It's not for you. It's for the readers. Okay. Some beneficiaries are there. Okay. So some audiences are there. So that you have to see. So what audience you are focusing. Okay. And just look at the journal scope, and you just look at how what are the who are the readers are reading the papers published in the respective journals. Okay. Based on that, you have to select the journal. And the next one is how prestigious your journal in your field. Okay, so this talks about the level of the journal, or the familiarity of the journal. Okay, so this gives the prestigious state to the journal. Okay, so you have to see that, okay, my journal is published by this publisher, and it is having a size score of this, it is having impact factor of this. Okay, it's having the H index of this. Based on that, you have to select, and also how best that journal in your field. So that also you have to see. Then accordingly, you have to select the journal. The next one is the how long does it take to publish in this journal. Okay, it's a time frame. The time frame is always important, because now if you submit paper now, if it is published after 2 3 years, what is the use of it? Okay, it's not required, right? Because now we are in the fast running world. I know the people are doing the crores of researches that people are doing. Maybe if I do research on one field, the same field, the lakhs of people are working. So if you publish a paper after 2 years, what is the use of it? So that you have to see that when you submit the paper, how long the journal takes to publish the paper. Okay, then you have to see now what is the cost to publish the paper, because nowadays most of the publishers are moving towards the open access journals. If it is an open access journal, yes, it requires huge the article processing charge. Okay, so just check the article processing charge. Okay, if it is a free publication, it is fine. If there is any open access publication charges are there, just look at the article processing charge, and you see that if it is affordable by you, you just go forward, or else you go to the next one. Okay, and also some journals are having some submission fee also. Okay, that you see that maybe you can refer to the guidelines for the authors in each journal website will be there. Just refer to it. If any kind of submission fee is there, accordingly you have to pay the submission fee and you have to submit the paper. Okay, and these are the things, and not only these things decides how to select the journal. Okay, and few more things are there. That is one of the thing is the indexing. Okay, so the top indexing database is the Web of Science. Okay, in the Web of Science we have different categories like SCIE and SSCI, ESCI and CPCI. So in this, for all engineering and technology related, SCIE is applicable, and mostly the arts and science and the humanities will go CI. So these are the high level of indexing. Okay, The next level is the SCI, that is the Emerging Sources Citation Index. SCI is nothing but Science Citation Index expanded, and the SSCI is nothing but Social Science Citation Index. Okay, and ESCI is the Emerging Sources Citation Index. Actually, this ESCI is the first step to get the status of SCI or SSCI. Okay, and the CPCI is nothing but Conference Proceedings Citation Index. Okay, this complete Web of Science database is maintained by the Clarivate Analytics. Okay, and here we have different quartiles like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and this quartile is completely different from the Scopus quartile. Okay, many of the people knows the quartiles are there for the Scopus, but this quartile and the Scopus quartile is completely different. Okay, so suppose if you publish one paper in Q1 SCA index journal that is having a lot of weightage than one Scopus paper or 10 Scopus papers. Assume I have 10 to 15 Scoopers papers, okay, but I have only one Q1SC paper, so both will be, this one Q1SC will be more than the 10, 15 papers of Scoopers. Okay, that much weightage is there because it's all based on the quartile as well as the indexing. And the next one, the many of the people aware of it, okay, Scoopers database. The Scoopers database is maintained by the Elsevier, and all the scientific, technical, and medical disciplines are indexed here. And this is also having a quartiles like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Okay, as I said, this quartile and that quartile, the Clarivate and the quartile is different. Okay, and this quartile you can check it. The Scopus quartile you can directly check it in the Scopus site. Okay, you can easily check for any of the journal. Okay, but Web of Science quartile checking is somewhat different. You need a complete access to check whether that journal is indexed in Q1 or Q2 or Q3 or Q4. Okay, that requires some kind of access to check. But the Scopus quartile you can check it in the Scopus site. And apart from that, we have a Google Scholar. So the difference between Web of Science, Scopus, and Google Scholars, Web of Science and Scopus will be indexing only research paper, review papers. Okay, if you take Web of Science will index only research paper, review paper, and short communications only. Okay, so it will not index the book chapters. If you are writing any papers in the book, that will not be indexed by either by ESCI or SCI or SSCI or CPCI. Some conferences are indexed by Web of Science. That's what we call as a CPCI. But in Scopus, you can index your book chapters, books, your conference, and your journal, research, or review, or short communication, or the editorial. Everything will be indexed by Scopus. But if you take a Google Scholar, whatever you write, it may be your thesis, it may be your preprints, it may be your abstracts. Okay, all the preprints are not indexed by any of Scopus or the Web of Science. Okay, whatever the other things are there, that completely will be indexed by Google Scholar. This is having a least weightage. Okay, and the highest weightage is Web of Science, and the middle level is a Scopus, then the lower level is a Google Scholar. Okay, apart from that, we have so many indexing databases. Okay, I just listed a few, and this EA Compendex is there. So now that is getting familiarized nowadays. Okay, that EA Compendex is also produced, given by, it is also the database is maintained by the Elsevier. Okay, so soon that will come into the top level. And also apart from that, we have the UGC approved journals. Okay, so you can refer to the UGC website and you can see the CAR 1, CAR 2 lists are there. So based on that also, you can publish your papers. And you should be very careful about the predatory journals. Okay, so many predatory journals are available. Okay, on the same name of the actual journal, some fake journal websites will be there. So most of the time, the people will lead to the predatory journals, and they'll be submitting the paper, and they'll be paying a huge amount. You'll be getting acceptance within 2-3 days. Then they'll be asking you to pay some kind of a huge amount. And once you publish a paper, and that will not be indexed by any of the indexing services, your paper will be wasted. They will not remove your paper from the repository as well. It means that your work is waste, your paper is waste, your money is also getting wasted. Okay, you have to be very careful with regard to the predatory journals. Okay, you just check the authenticity of the journal. If it is really authentic, if it is really a genuine journal, then you have to go for the publications. If you have any doubts, don't go with those kind of predatory journals. Okay, so because if we talk many things we can talk, but I just want to skip all these things. Okay, so in order to avoid the predatory journals, we have some kind of repositories. Okay, you can refer to these any one of the repositories. You can see so many publishers or so many journals are listed over there. Okay, so you can avoid submitting papers to those kind of cloned journals. Okay, when you submit any paper, first thing you check with your colleagues whether any of your colleagues knows this journal, or is it possible to identify the contact detail of the publishers, and yes, the journal clears about the peer review and fees charged and fee, and completely with regard to the peer review, everything should be disclosed in the website. If that is not there, obviously that is again a clone journal. Is it possible to recognize the editorial board? If it is possible to recognize the editorial board, it's better try to communicate with the editorial board directly, stating that is this journalist genuine or not. So after that, you submit your paper to the journal. Okay, these are the few ways to avoid the predatory journals, but I always suggest try to go with some reputed publishers so that you can avoid all these kind of predatory journals. Okay, and the statement of work and the conflict of interest. Okay, so when you write any papers nowadays, the journals are asking you to disclose the author contributions, and because if more than one author is there in the paper, and the journal is asking what is the contribution of each author. Okay, if there is no significant contribution, and the journal itself will ask you to remove the person from the paper. Okay, so these are all the things nowadays it's mandatory when you submit the paper, or if you have any kind of a conflict of interest or the funding sources, that completely it should be disclosed in the paper. Okay, if there is no conflict, you have to mention there is no conflict in the there is no the authors are not having any conflict of interest, like that you have to give a statement. Okay, and when you're submitting the paper to the journal, you have to check any journal. You go to the journal site and read the instruction for authors and write the cover letter, and make sure the paper conforms the journal guidelines. Sometimes the journal will be asking you to prepare the paper in their respective. Okay, and this is with regard to the content should what are the content should be there in the paper, everything. Okay, that maybe you can check it. Sometimes the journal will be asking you to provide the line numbers. Okay, and based on the guidelines you just okay, and you should check that the paper is not submitted other anywhere else. Okay, and sometimes you have to give some reviewers name also. So when you give the reviewers name, you should give the reviewers who are unknown to you. Okay, or the reviewers who are not having any works with you. Okay, if they have any kind of a publication, prior publications, don't suggest them as the potential reviewers. Okay, otherwise that will lead to the rejection. Okay, so these are the things. As I told you, don't do any kind of a multiple submissions. Okay, okay, and plagiarism. So when you write the paper, as I told you, should just check the paper for the similarity report. Okay, nowadays you have to check the AI score as well, because the Turnet is having that facility to check the AI score. The similarity and the AI score need to be checked. So for that, you can use any kind of a professional tools. I just listed only two professional tools here. One is Authenticate and one was the Turnitin. Okay, so Authenticate and Turnitin will give the same similarity. Okay, but only advantage with the Turnitin is it is having the AI score facility. Okay, it will check the AI score of your paper. It will list it. If your AI score is more than 15 percentage, even if your similarity is less than 10 percentage, assume. Okay, assume your similarity is less than 10 percentage. If your AI score is greater than 15 or 20 percentage, your paper will lead to rejection. Okay, because the AI score also nowadays the people are checking. Okay, so make sure it should not have high AI score as well as the similarity as well. Okay, and do all the final check. Okay, after that, yes, you have to go for submission. To go for a submission, you have a lot of recommendation system. Okay, so here I just listed all the recommendation system for with respect to the publishers. So here the first one is for IEEE, and next one elsewhere, and this is Springer, and this is for Taylor and Francis, this is for Wiley. So the publisher specific journal finders. Okay, and these two, the last two are these two are the open thing, like it will suggest you the good journal for your paper. It may be irrespective of the publishers. Okay, but all these things are publisher specific. It will recommend the journals which are coming under their publishing unit. Okay, so it's so many recommendation systems are there. So there you have to put your title and the abstract, and based on that, it will show you the different journals name and their site score, everything. Then accordingly you can decide. Okay, just to give the demonstration, what I will do is I'll just go to I just go to journal finder or elsewhere journal finder. Yeah, so this is what elsewhere journal finder. So just go inside, and here you see that it is asking you to put the abstract. Okay, so what you can do, you take any whatever the paper you have written. Okay, so what I do is, so I'll just take one paper here, maybe, yeah, one paper. I just kept it here. So now you see that, assume that you have written this paper, and I'm just copying the abstract of that respective paper. Okay, and just put the paper here, put the abstract here, and just click find journals. Okay, when you click the find journals, you see that it is recommending 40 journals for my abstract, because it's all working on the AI tool. Okay, so based on the similarity of the abstract, okay, it will be recommending you some journals. So now this journal finder recommended 40 journals for my paper, and here you can see all these are the 40 journals it's listed. Okay, I'll take the first one. You can see the text math score. It's about only 20%. It's fine. But you see that I told you, when you select the paper, you should see the prestigious status of the journal. So that's all taken care by your metrics. Okay, so here you can see the metrics, like site score is 14 point. It's too good. Okay, it's very high. In the impact factor is 8.7. It is a too good. It's 8.7. It's all very high impact factor, and you can see that acceptance rate is only 16% of for that particular journal, and time for the first decision is 7 weeks, and time to publication is 3 weeks. Okay, so the time duration is given, acceptance rate is given, and the prestigious status is also given. And also finally, I told you to check the pricing, right? So here you see that this is a hybrid journal, and it can publish both open access as well as a subscription. Okay, so subscription means there is no publication charge. If it is open access, you have to pay $3,580 you have to pay. If it is affordable by you, you can go with open access, or else you can go with the subscription based model. I'll just show you some kind of open access journal also. You see that some journals are there with open access only option. Okay, maybe I'll just show you some example. Yeah, this is the one journal. You see that International Journal of Electrical Power and Energy System is there. So this is the journal. You see that site score is good, impact factor is good, even acceptance rate is 17%. Okay, and the time for the first edition is 5 weeks, and time to publication is 3 weeks. But you see here, this journal publishes paper only in open access. Okay, you see that there is no you cannot publish paper at free of cost. You have to pay $3,500. If it is affordable, you can go ahead, or else you can go to the next journal. So likewise, you check the journal based on this recommendation system, then you can go for the submissions. Okay, so based on that, submit. These are all the peer review process. This, many of the people might be knowing it. Okay, and suppose if paper is accepted or rejected, you take it. If it is accepted, it's fine. If it is rejected, just try to respond to all the suggestions given by the reviewers and submit the paper to some other journal. Okay, so that's it with this. This research metrics will take a lot of time to discuss. Okay, so maybe in some other time I'll be discussing about the research metrics. Okay, and citations, how to increase the citations. And author profile, these are the things you have to maintain as a researcher. You people have to maintain these kind of author profiles. One is one author ID you have to maintain. It's a unique ID for everyone. Now the researcher ID. So initially it was taken care by the Bubloons, but now the Clarivate Analytics is taking care of this researcher ID. And the Scopus ID. Once you publish one paper in Scopus indexed journal, then ID will be created automatically. Then you try to use the same ID for all your future publications. And the Google Scholar ID you can create if you have the institution email ID, you can create the Google Scholar ID. Now that all your Google Scholar indexed journals will be updated there. And apart from that, we have social medias like ResearchGate, Academia, and Microsoft Academic ID. Now I think Microsoft Academic ID is almost it's all obsolete. So most of the people are going with the ResearchGate and Academia. And also, I suggest you to go with some kind of a personal website. So if you have a personal website, then obviously you can create a lot of impact. So that will give a lot of visibility for your research work. Okay, these are the other profile you people have to maintain. And the research tools, again, it takes some time, so I don't want to cover now. Yeah. So I think my discussion is over. I just want to acknowledge. So I would like to acknowledge the contents of other peers whose contents are being so used to comprehend the subject better, and I do so solely for the academic purpose. I do not claim any of the ownership of any of the contents of the other peers. So with this acknowledgement, I would like to thank the IoT Academy once again for providing this opportunity to discuss whatever I know, whatever I experienced it, I just shared it. Okay, sometimes the difference in opinion will be there. Okay, if any such kind of opinion is there, you please kindly share it with me so that it will be very useful for me to correct myself. Okay, and these are my contact details, so you can contact me at any time if you have any further doubts. Okay, so with this, I just stop my presentation. I just hand over the session to Madam. Ma'am, please take care.